one.
McCaffrey busting through for 30, 35, 40. Quick race down the right side. Here he goes at the 50, 40 to the Miami 30, 20 at the 10. A swipe with the ankles. They can't get him. Touchdown, Christian McCaffrey. They can't get him. They can't get him. You're right.
You can't catch him, but you can catch us on the C3 podcast. Tuesday nights, 9 p.m. Tony Dunn here, chopping up the latest Panthers news and opinions. Tonight's show, get me out of Funchytown and take me to DJMooresville. And I'm here to get out of Funchytown and get into DJMooresville with my boys. Mel Mayock is in the house. What's up, Mel?
What's going on, Tony? Man, it's good to be here. Tuesday night. Unfortunately, rough week, rough outing, rough weekend, but we're here. 24-hour rule, man. Time to move on.
Panthers fell 31-24 to division rivals with the Atlanta Falcons. Joe Riolano coming in hot, my friend. What is up, my best boy?
Yeah, man, I was on fire tonight, literally on fire. But I'm here. I'm excited to talk Panthers football. I'm ready to chop it up, so let's break out the Ginsu knives.
Fantastic producing the show tonight. Cody Lashney, what's up, my man?
My brothers, how's it hanging? I'm so excited to be on the show tonight. There's so much to talk about. You hate it when you lose to a division rival, but you move on to the next game. Let's do it, boys. I don't want a Ginsu knife. I want a katana. Let's dice it up.
Very nice.
Guys, tonight's show, like I said, get me out of Funchytown and into DJMooresville. Thanks, Joe, for a great show title. Is episode 18.34. We're going to be looking into the Panthers' loss to the Atlanta Falcons. Hard fought, but not the best fight you've ever seen. We'll be kind of trying to get into that. We've got your cat calls at the show. The number's 252-228-5098. We'll be looking ahead to the Cincinnati Bengals, who are better than expected for a Bengals team, and we got to face them coming off a hard loss at home, trying to rebound. We'll talk about all that. We appreciate everybody listening to the show. It's so fantastic to have everybody in the YouTube chat. Thank you so much. While you're there, turn your phones to portrait mode. Smash that thumbs up button. And if you haven't subscribed, help us grow. Look, we are 7 subscribers on YouTube away from 1,000. I'm pretty sure when you hit 1,000, you just hit 2,000, 3,000 like in a week. So let's get to 1,000, right? You can also follow the work at cat_chronicles. And we're on iTunes, Stitcher, TuneIn Radio, guys. Look, it's the longest running podcast, Panthers podcast. We don't quit. Literally, you can tell us it sucks, and we continue to make the show. All right, guys. 31-24. We talked about it after the game. Mel, what is your opinion, and how has it changed since Sunday when we did the post-game show?
Oh, about the same, really. I mean, there's been years past where we lose like that, and it just ruins my week, and I'm just pissed off and, just awful. But truth be told, I'm upset. You're always upset to lose, but, I mean, we were very banged up going in, and they are a very talented team. I mean, they got a lot of talent. We're playing in their home. We've only won there 2 times in the last 10 years, I think it is. So to lose by 7 and to keep fighting the way they did, there's some things to be corrected, things to talk about. But at the end of the day, we're right there. We just got to clean some things up, get some people healthy, and, the future's bright.
Yeah, I mean, is that it is not felt and I'm with you. I don't know if it's because we've just been doing the show for so long now, and doing the website and all that, and all following everything as closely. But it doesn't feel Chicken Little, like the sky is falling every time we lose. Was this was this one easy to swallow? No. I do think, though, in the past where I would have been kind of panicked about is actually a legitimate concern, is that not whether we're good or bad or we're talent. In the past, it's been about talent and some different things. At this point, the question is, can you sustain an entire season when like everybody is getting hurt? Joe, how do you feel a couple of days removed from the game? Have you changed your reactions from the post-game feelings and reaction to today?
Yeah. After the game, your emotions are running high. But after you take a few days and you get to think about things, you realize that it's not the end of the world. We're only 2 weeks into the season, and we got to remember it's not a sprint; it is a marathon. So we've got some time to get better. We know we're a good team, but we have to be a better team. And that's what we have to work on, whether that's getting players back from injury, people stepping up in the level of play, whatever the case may be. We just have to get better.
Cody, we look around the internet, we listen to the radio. I know everybody on this show pretty regularly listens to WFNZ. You're going to hear the callers. You're going to hear them running hot. You're going to hear, you're going to watch Twitter, which is just an emotional outpour of everything. And I'm guilty of that in so many ways because it's so instant. It's so reactionary. But at the same time, one of the criticisms about people who have been probably in the camp that I put Mel and I specifically, which is like, I'm not scared in the long run yet. Not that I'm not concerned, but for some things, but like, I don't feel like I have in the past. And these guys, what they say and what they bring to light is that like, hey, you just excuse everything. You excuse anytime something goes wrong as like, hey, it was an off week. You excuse the coaching staff for not having the guys ready or amped up and saying, it's not really a referendum on them as a staff. You excuse the defense and the players or something like this at every turn. You continue to see this conversation. Panther Nation, like politics at times, can be very polarized. So are we excusing this, and or have you just are you kind of leaning to us like, hey, take a chill pill. We'll see where we're at in a couple weeks.
Let me insert in there before they answer, if you don't mind. Just the other side of the coin on that
go ahead,
is the other side of that coin is people being so hypercritical over every single thing, right? So there's got to be a happy medium. Can you excuse something all the time, or can you be so hypercritical that when a guy doesn't run a straight line to the huddle, you're saying he's not focused, right? It's just
exactly.
Great point. It's a world of extremes. So,
I'm firmly in the camp. So let me let you in on one of my own little personal theories. I kind of believe that no matter what NFL team you're talking about, even the Patriots, you don't know what a team truly is until after week 6. Because in my opinion, that's a large enough of a study to be able to say, I know what this team does well, I know what it doesn't do well, and I think I have a good idea of what they're going to be able to do moving forward. We have a game against Dallas.
One-off? Is it a one-off, or is this something that is habitual or a true weakness or strength, right?
We have a game against Dallas where we didn't let them put up more than 10 points, and then we go to Atlanta and they put up 31. So which is it? Which one is fooling us? Are we the stalwart defense that isn't to be messed with, that you can't run the football on? Or are we the team that, you can burn us deep and run all over us? I tend to think that this defense is going to step up. I'm not just being a homer. I genuinely do believe that our talent on the front seven is enough that this isn't going to be a consistent problem moving forward. Along with our offense, Cam was so amazing. I have some clips that we'll play later. Cam Newton played out of his mind. I think there is enough to see to be hopeful. I mean, considering that if DJ Moore has that touchdown at the end zone, it's a tie ball game. We're going into overtime.
And you're winning that game. If you come back like that and you tie it up, there is you don't lose that.
You'll win it.
It was so far. He wasn't gonna catch that though.
I mean, it was right in his hands, man.
It almost happened.
It did.
I know.
Almost happened.
Crazy. That would have been the best thing ever.
It did. There's no reason to sound. In my opinion, there's no reason to sound the alarms yet. I think that we need to see a little bit more and let them respond, and then if they put up another performance like that, then we'll talk about it some more.
All right, so here, let's get to the conversation that we need to have. I asked on Twitter, there's so many things I want to do with the show. One of the things I wanted to do was make a moment, but these things called Twitter moments, where you basically curate a series of tweets. I have it all made. I just had to finalize it and do the art and some things. I'd love to do that every week. There's only so many hours in the day, but I put out the question here to Panther fans on Facebook and on Twitter yesterday. What's the most important storyline going into week 3? A lot of answers ranging from will we see Curtis Samuel to how will DJ Moore be used? But really the most predominant response to that was, will the Panthers defense rebound? Now, this goes back to what you're saying. Look, is that one of the things, like you said, is that you have this almost hyperbole or these polar opposites. We saw two different teams. It's like you went out with a girl, you asked a girl out, you went on a date with her, then you go on a second date, and it feels nothing like the girl you went out with the first time. So you got to go out
Jekyll and Mr. Hyde.
Yeah, and you got to hope that it's Dr. Jekyll and Mrs. Hyde, I would hope.
Or you find out at the wrong time.
Oh, God. Oh, no. No.
Then you go there.
That's right. So then you have to go on the third date, right, and see, is it somewhere in the middle? Is it what's going on here? So you look at this defense, and so I think one of the reasons that we were so off put by this Atlanta game was that it's not that we're unaccustomed to seeing drop passes. We're not unaccustomed to some other guys, some of the things we saw, maybe some clock management stuff, maybe a lack of what I would say it sometimes feels like a sense of urgency. Right. Getting to the huddle, getting to the line. These are small things, body language stuff almost. But one of the things that Joe said after the game to us was, did we show signs of looking old and slow? It can happen in a moment. I don't think it's the case necessarily when it comes to look, KK Short is not old. Mario Addison is not old. But when you do look at Julius Peppers and what you need from him, and they say, hey, we need a lot of snaps from you. When you look at, and really, I don't feel like we're that old. I mean, Shaq Thompson's a pretty young player. Vernon Butler is just young and not that great from what we've seen so far. But I'm looking at that back end. You got Dante Jackson on one side. He's young. You got James Bradbury, who played well. But then you go, look, we suffered. Cersei gets a concussion. You want to play that clip. It's an interesting clip. Cersei suffers a concussion. You might have to cycle Joe out for a second to play that clip. We'll bring him right back in.
That's fine.
Yeah, okay.
So Cersei gets a concussion. You go, hey, we're going to have to bring a rookie in, right? So how can you be old? But then you're looking at Mike Adams back there. Boy, that's Father Time right there. You know, so, you know, you wonder how good this defense can be if you've got some real, it seems like we got both sides. It's Dr. Jekyll being old and Mr. Hyde being young and experienced, inexperienced in some cases, and that showed up. So how do you solve this problem on defense? I'll pose the question to you, Mel, while Cody brings Joey back in, and that is, how do you solve the problem going into week 3 about a defense rebounding when you have old players on one hand, or older players, and then on the other hand, some inexperienced guys like Golden back there, as well as Dante Jackson?
Well, I stick to what I said after the game. I really think this was a case of being caught off guard. I really think that they probably planned for this game in the offseason and in training camp, and they were focused around stopping Devontae Freeman. And then Freeman not being there, Coleman came in just a bull in a china shop and ran down their throat, caught them off guard, and just sent everything into a spiral. I'm not hitting the panic button on the season and saying we're old and washed up. You know, like Cody said earlier, I want to see more before
we can't be. We have too many young players to be old and washed up.
Exactly. So I really think it was just a bad outing when we were focused on one great player and another great player came in, and there were two totally different players, caught us with our pants down. Hey, we lost by 7 on the road. Keep your chin up, move on to the next game.
And a division rival and a place where they always play us tough. You know, I think, Tony, you just said that they were saying during the broadcast that we haven't won there. Well, ever since they had their new stadium, we haven't won in it yet. So it's like it's a tough game, man. You know,
even when we were 15-1, they were the 1 and 15-1 on the road.
Yeah, they were the ones that got us. And what I'll say, yeah, me too. It's never time to push the panic button after the second game of the season. But one of the things I'll say to Joey's point about us looking old is I am genuinely worried about the safety position. And I think it's a big problem.
That's what I'm trying to get to. That is what I'm trying to get to.
I don't think it's just a problem. I think that it's a huge problem. I think Mike Adams played well against Dallas, but I think that now Denoris Cersei is on his second concussion, I believe. We don't know what his status is going to be for Cincinnati. It's concerning right now. You know, we have talented young corners, but man, safety is a very important position, and we have guys that are in their 30s and that are kind of banged up trying to do the job for us. And I don't know if that's sustainable, especially in this division that we're in.
Joe, in the YouTube chat, J-Dub, I think, uses what describes it in the way that we really are trying to capture it, since it's kind of polar opposites, and that is these guys look flat in that game. You saw Shaq Thompson look sluggish. You saw I thought this is when I know what you were saying, Joe, because one, we didn't really get to the pass rush. We didn't get to Matt Ryan at all. We didn't have any pressures. You know, you're looking at Dontari Poe and saying, why aren't you playing more snaps? What happened that it's you and Butler? I meant you and KK, Butler and KK, excuse me. And then, like Mel said early on, maybe before the show started, was KK. KK was like non-existent in this game. But then you look into the backfields, you had Cersei, who's like a 30-year-old on the, backside, grizzled vet at this point, 29, something like that. But Mike Adams is so old. And now we probably were thinking he was the weakest piece of our secondary, and because of his age, and you saw it show in this game. He was asked to do a little bit more against a very explosive offense than probably he can do at this point in his career. Then you look at Captain Monroe.
How did he grade out?
He didn't play bad. I don't know. Is that I just remember seeing there was one or two plays where it's like, man, this poor guy's got to cover so much field. you're playing the free safety position and against a defense that's throwing it down. I mean, against an offense that doesn't hesitate to throw it downfield. And if he gets going 2 steps the wrong way and then has to try to go back and make up for it, he doesn't have, it's a lot of field for him to cover. And then also, Joey, I'll go to you on this. Captain Munnerlyn has not been exciting. He's been whelming at best, underwhelming at worst. So how do you fix those?
I don't know. I don't know that he can give it to you. I think you got to bring in another nickel, and whether that's Corn Elder, probably Corn Elder.
But that's, how inexperienced you become. Imagine that. Imagine your secondary of James Bradbury. Think about this: James Bradbury, Dante Jackson, Corn Elder, Rashawn Golden, and then you try to make up for all inexperience with the oldest player in the NFL.
Well, I mean, Captain is not getting any younger.
No,
that's the truth. You're right, and he's not making a difference, dude.
No, he's not. He's very mediocre. That's the way, that's been his play, very mediocre.
He was better than mediocre when he was young. You know what I'm saying? He played above his size when he was young. Now he's starting to play like his size.
Right. Exactly.
And by the way, that's also a negative on our linebackers, because opposing offenses and their coordinators, they're going to look at us, say, okay, nickel is where they're weakest. We can attack them in the slot, and that means Luke and Shaq, and when Thomas comes back, they're going to have to compensate for that area of the field, and they're going to use that to burn us deep. And it's not a good look. I mean, I want to see Corn Elder on the field. It's nothing against Munnerlyn, but I think there needs to be a concerted effort to play our younger guys, the guys that we drafted. Tony, I know you said time and time again, you want to draft guys and have them matter. So I want to see Golden out there. I want to see Elder out there. I know we're going to talk a lot about DJ Moore later on tonight, so I'll save that. But I want our young guys to step up and play so that it addresses the issue that Joey was talking about, that we're not so old on the field.
Right, and usually when you associate something with old, you're also saying slow. And these young guys that we have on the bench, we know they have speed. And we need that on the field. We need more of it on the field.
All right, we're I want to ask the question. I want to ask the question to you though, and then we'll go around quickly and we'll move on from this point. Is the safety issue? Cersei could be a Michael Orr at this point.
Right.
He's had 2 concussions. He's had 2 concussions in a matter of 3 weeks, which indicates to me that like he wasn't. It's one of those things like it's like we don't really know enough about concussions to tell you if you're ready or not to come back. So we think you're ready. You're not having any headaches, but turns out you ain't ready. And you saw his face when he got up, and the poor guy, helmet to helmet, you saw his face in that video. He comes up, he doesn't know what's going on. Not like he doesn't know like where he's at. He knows he's in a football game, but you can tell it's like, it's overwhelming at the moment. So at that point, like we're not only dangerously thin at safety, there's a question of can Mike Adams and Rashawn Golden actually get it done? So what do you do here at this point? I'll open to you, Mel. I know that you only got a couple of minutes left. Is this something that you act on, or in the famous words of Dave Gettleman, the answer is on the roster?
I think time will tell. I mean, on the one hand, I'd like to think the Atlanta Falcons is not a good barometer to worry about your secondary because they're going to make a lot of teams look bad. Yeah,
That's a good point.
They really will.
Great point.
So, but we will see this weekend because we've got another team coming in that can make a lot of secondaries look bad with AJ Green and the emerging John Ross, right? So we'll see this weekend. But
AJ Green, 3 touchdowns last week, bro.
Yeah, I know. And then the bad thing is after this week, we got to bye, so it'll be a long 2 weeks if we don't win this weekend. So hopefully they'll get it figured out. I think they will.
That bye might be a blessing in disguise at this point, though.
Well, it will be.
Yeah. But let's hope we go into a 2-1 record instead of 1-2.
Absolutely.
Cody, can you do it? You brought up the point. You brought up the safety point. You said, hey, this is what I'm really concerned about. You've also said you want to see these young guys on the fields. Someone in the comments, I think it was Antoine Henderson, said, hey, every rookie on the field is like almost 7 points added to the defense or into the game. So how do you feel about the safety position? What do you need to do?
So, real quickly, in the Panther fandom right now, after Josh and Gordon got released, we should go out and sign Josh and Gordon. And, hey, you hear Antonio Brown wants to be traded? Him and Cam Newton were training together. No. Go and get Eric Reed. What are we doing?
We've been saying it for a dang 7 months.
I know, and it's so infuriating. Because it honestly feels like it's just the national anthem BS. Like, it's just him kneeling, and now he has, like, a lawsuit or whatever. It's – I don't know. But Eric Reed – and shout out to Tim Tizzy in the chat because he was the one that brought it up in the chat room, and I told him I got him that I mentioned it. Yeah, listen, Eric Reed could come in right now and instantly make our team better. But it's like – we probably have just as much of a chance of signing him as we do trading for Antonio Brown. It's sad that there's a player out there that could help us like that we're probably not even going to give him a second thought.
Is there any chance that Tepper's comments recently about how people who say that the protests that players are doing is anti-patriotic being basically just kind of the wackiest mess he had ever heard? He kind of spoke in many ways. He said that. He said, like, hey, is that like that. No, he called somebody out and he said ultimately, like, or they was asked about it. He said, you don't get it if that's what you say. In many ways, what we've been talking about in so much for the last 7 months, anyway, that maybe not intentionally, but he may have laid the groundwork for, like, hey, if there is going to happen, we got an owner now who's trying to set a new tone in Charlotte, trying to ingratiate himself with the fans. Joey, we'll ask you this because you're kind of been I would say, just by your typical natural leanings, and we're not going to talk politics and all that, and we're not going to talk about the protests, but generally I would say that you're more reserved when it comes to these types of issues, more on the traditionalist side rather than the, millennial side, if you want to put it that way. Is Tepper? Yeah, I mean, but you know what I'm trying to say is that is Tepper in many ways, would it be advantageous? Do you think he could? How would it sit with you, a new owner coming into town, taking that kind of stand, that progressive stand that I would associate it with on this issue, and then making a statement at the same time ingratiating himself with the fans? How would that feel to someone who is the more traditionalist opinion on some of these social issues? Tough question, huh?
It is. It is a tough question. I'm trying to be honest with myself here. I do understand the reason for the protest. I'm not trying to get into that. I'm sorry. It would affect me. I can say that. I'm positive it would affect me. I don't know to what degree, but I would be affected.
When you say affected, what specifically? You mean if he signed Eric Reed, or if if Tepper just made a stand.
And if he comes into play, I'm fine with that. As long as he does what he wants to do, I'm not any person that can tell anybody what to do. I know that. Does it bother me? Yes.
Right.
The protest aside, say there's no protest going forward. You know what I'm saying? No symbolic thing. Say Tepper has already done the symbolic thing, which is say, hey, this isn't what you guys say about it. It's not anti-patriotic. He's already come out and said that, so he's already put his foot in the door, wedged it open a little bit. Signing Eric Reed, do you think for the most hardcore wear American hat, like you are going to stand up or I'm going to fight you in the stands for the national anthem player, if he just signed the player and there really wasn't a big hubbub around making political statements for that year, it
wouldn't bother me, but I think there are people
think it
who
would. And okay, all right,
yeah, I think there are those people who would be. For me, I wouldn't have a problem with it.
Daniel Nestor brings up probably the ultimate part that has to do with Eric Reed and ownership, and that is maybe this doesn't truly have to do with whether or not the fan base would respond or something like that, or whether or not Eric Reed, like maybe he has this guy, what he is that Eric Reed's suing the league at this point for collusion. Right. Is that if he signs with a team, does he kind of feel like he's folding to their pressure as well? Would be an interesting kind of position. And that is like, hey, I'm dug in at this point. Everybody's dug in. I'm going to see this to the end. You got to wonder that. Just a tough thing. I mean, I feel like Tepper's made some things. Maybe it would be something. If there is an owner that would step outside the box, it could be the 11 billionaire who is trying to set a new tone in a city, Charlotte, that while it may have been conservative in the past, is growing at such a rate, is kind of a different tone than maybe the rest of South Carolina and North Carolina politically. So tough stuff to talk about. I didn't mean for this conversation to go that way, but Eric Reed took us there, or he didn't. We, society, took us there. All right, so let's go to this. Let's get to the offense, guys, because we talked a lot about the defense, the need for them to bounce back, right? We're uncharacteristically soft against the run. As J-Dub said in the comments, he said, holy cow, KK and Poe let me down. And not let us down like personally, but we've been so hype on these dudes, giving dudes so much problems. It was tough to see that. Now, on the offensive side of the ball, all very mixed bag. I would ultimately say a better performance than the defense. Cam Newton was, for the most part, dialed in. I think people that have pointed to the 3 or 4 plays that he did miss on are highlighting a sample set that probably helps their narrative. I'm not saying he was the greatest quarterback in the world, but he was not a weakness in that game. One bad play, took a sack, one missed throw. You know what I'm saying? Then you get Christian McCaffrey, who continues to dazzle, had 10 catches, I think, somewhere upwards of that, 102 yards or 14 catches. It was a ton of catches. 14. He's running the ball well. There's some things to be optimistic about on that offense, Cam Newton being one of them. And all that's done with who was that guy? He was playing left tackle. He was sitting on the couch. I called him Chris Couchlock Clark. He's Chris Couchlock. That mug. Boy, the Panthers called him up, and he jumped off that couch as fast as you could, and he said, I'm tired of hanging out with these children in this damn house. I got to get out of here. Go play left tackle for the Panthers.
When I read that, I thought you were talking about yours. I didn't know who you were talking about.
That's right. That's how I envisioned it. Right? He was like, I got to get out of here. I got to go play left tackle for the Panthers. Guys, what do you think about the offense? Cody, I'll start with you.
Well, you brought up Christian McCaffrey. And it's funny, I was tweeting with Lynn before this, and I kind of posed a question. And, I want to read something here. Christian McCaffrey had 14 receptions for 102 yards receiving. His 14 catches tied Steve Smith for the franchise record for receptions in a game. Steve Smith set the mark in 2005. His 14 catches tied for fourth most in NFL history by a running back. So your homeboy is out here generally making records happen, and Cam Newton is making that happen himself. The question that I want to pose to you and Joey and to everyone in our chat room is, do we think that maybe he's becoming a bit too much of a security blanket for Cam Newton? And the reason why I say that is because I have a clip right here, and on the play, the slant route is open the entire time, but Cam Newton just sees Christian on the curl and just tosses it to him, even though Devin Funchess was wide open. So what I want to know from you all is, do you think that maybe we're pushing the ball to Christian a little bit too much, and thereby we're not looking, or Cam isn't seeing the field as open as he might be otherwise?
Such a crazy conversation, isn't it, Joey, that you go from a quarterback who refuses to take a check down to a quarterback who's locked in on the check down, right? I mean, but no, I think it's a totally legitimate question, is at what point, and I think we've seen this conversation spill over. Really, I think what Cody has raised, and the point that you're raising, Cody, is much at the same vein, in the same spirit that comes back to the conversation between Christian McCaffrey and CJ Anderson. A big discussion among Panther fans. And it's like, hey, look, we saw CJ Anderson. They get in the 5, within the 5 on that touchdown drive that Jarris Wright caught the touchdown. And you saw CJ Anderson and the body language of him on the sidelines as clearly like, what the heck? Why am I not in the game at this point? Feeling in many ways is like, this is maybe a moment that I was brought here to do. You continue to see this discussion spill over into social media from CJ Anderson. This attitude, he comes out, he puts up after the game yesterday a picture of his Super Bowl ring saying, look, started out on the bench, finished in the Super Bowl with this. You keep giving 100. Saying, I think in one hand you could say he's saying, I want to put in 100. I want to prove that to this team that I can be much more. But at the same time, he's also saying, why ain't I much more already? Joey, you look to that. Joey, how do you do this? You see this conversation spilling into these two things. How do you feel about this point, the role of Christian McCaffrey? And you could even take that to Norv Turner if you wanted, really.
Yeah, that's where I was actually going to head with this. Going back to Cam being the checkdown king now, I think a big part of that is Norv Turner's offense. His offense does incorporate a lot of the running backs, coming out of the backfield. But it does seem like he may be a little too focused on him, because he has to be able to, hit somebody who's beyond the line of scrimmage every now and then too. That's pretty important. As far as the roles go, this is what I was concerned about. That's why I asked Chris Jenkins that question about,
going back to CJ. Good job. Yeah, that's exactly right.
I think McCaffrey is showing he's more than capable of carrying the load. But he doesn't have to. we have C.J. Anderson to help? Or is Ron thinking, I'm saving C.J. Anderson for the second half of the year? So when these teams are tired,
or maybe the middle, maybe the middle where you want to kind of maybe you need to give Christian McCaffrey lighten his load temporarily towards the back end.
Right. But is that his tactic? Is that what he's planning on doing? So I feel CJ definitely needs more touches. I don't know about throwing him the ball a whole lot, but definitely give him the ball. I love seeing him as the tailback with Arma lined up in front of him as the fullback, running the I formation.
Just kind of beat a team into submission a little bit. All right, so here's how I feel about it.
How about this? Why not just have more plays with both of them on the field at the same time? If they know we're utilizing Christian so much, then at least get them both on the field so that way they don't know what's coming. Add in the threat of Cam Newton running with the football. I think, add 2 tight end sets. You're ready to roll with a really potent run game right there.
They had a few times where both of them were in the backfield together. There were a couple of plays.
I don't feel like we've motioned Christian McCaffrey out of the backfield a ton. I don't feel like we've lined him up as a receiver. He may have had all these catches, but I feel like he's been coming out of the backfield kind of as a natural running back in those cases. I haven't, like last year, I felt like, hey, it was like, can even be a running back? This year, I feel like, hey, he might have a lot of catches, but he sure hasn't looked like a receiver out there.
Each of them should be getting anywhere from 10 to 15 touches every game. And I'm talking about McCaffrey and Anderson. They should combine for around 25 carries.
All right, there's 2 points that I think are important to keep in consideration. You've kind of brought a lot of them up, and one of those being we don't really know what Norv's long game is. That's where I don't like people being critical of, or people are already being critical of Norv Turner being the second coming of Mike Shula, which it's, sorry guys, we got to invert that. He can't be Mike Shula's cousin. He would have to be like his uncle. You know what I'm saying? And Mike Shula would have to be the second coming of Norv Turner, right? Just saying that, is that if that's the route you wanted to take. But first, I don't think we've seen enough of what Norv wants to do in the long run of this team to really make a decision about what he's done with the team, what he's done with the offense, or relatively, I don't think you even say it's the same offense that Mike Shula's running. I don't think we have enough sample set to even really compare that. And I don't look at this, the play calling, and go, oh my God, you ruined it. Norv Turner ruined it. I've not felt that way yet. All right. So that's one point to think. The second point is this: we don't really know how he's or long run, continue with the long game. We don't know how he really truly wants to use these guys in the end. We know that offensive coordinators save a lot. And maybe not save a lot, but it evolves into what they want it to be. They're not going to show in week 2 when they're trying to learn about their team really what they want to show in week 12 when they're trying to make a playoff run.
Right.
So we don't really know how he wants to use Christian McCaffrey and CJ Anderson and Arma in the long run. We've seen a relatively small sample set. You can't look at one game and be like, well, CJ got 5 touches. They don't like him. So you got to be careful with that. If you're CJ, you don't want to be like CJ and all of a sudden be like, hey, bro, we were waiting till after the bye and we're going to pound the mess out of these mugs. But now you are being all bratty on the sidelines, and now we're going to go with Christian McCaffrey. The second point I want to make is this. It's hard for me to really get too upset about this discussion, Christian McCaffrey, CJ needs more, when Christian McCaffrey has been so effective.
Yeah.
Like, I mean, he's been running the ball well. Like, when we run the ball, he's getting 4.5 yards a carry. It's not like you're like, oh, dang, they ran it and he was kind of good, but not the best. I mean, he's
No.
been killing it on the runs. He's been killing it in the pass game. So at some point, you feed the guys that could be difference makers. He's getting first downs.
And guys, listen, shout out to Nirvash in the chat room. CMC is averaging 4.8 yards per carry. Huge improvement over last season, and is actually bouncing off some tackles. And that's 100% the truth. CMC has, really now that Greg Olsen is not on this team and we don't know when he's coming back, Christian McCaffrey is our best running back and our best receiver. And even though he's a safety blanket for Cam, I would prefer that he continue to do that. Not to kind of segue here, we can talk about whatever we want, but especially when you have Devin Funchess. He dropped some passes in that game that was really kind of, it was not acceptable. And, you even saw during the game, during the broadcast, Cam had to bring Devin aside and was like, listen, man, we need to be better. When I have you wide open like that, I need to know that you're going to bring that pass in. And, unfortunately, that wasn't the end of the woes for Devin Funchess. Later on, it was a third down, and this would have been a huge conversion for us. And Cam just puts it right in the numbers, and he drops the pass at a time when we needed to sustain a drive and move the ball down the field. So, but when you see stuff like this, it makes you all the more thankful for McCaffrey being on the team and helping us out as much as he has.
Watch the back view of this play and this throw, and if we would have watched the broadcast version, and they got a great angle of that back shoulder throw. Yeah, it's 3rd and 2. You're about to drop an 8-yard pass on him. You couldn't have placed that ball any better. No. If it was Aaron Rodgers, if it was Tom Brady, you know what and look, I hate to continue to be like this because I'm always defending Cam. I'm always loving on Cam. I'm like pro Cam all the time. And I know that, and that's what I gotta be. It's me. I'm just being honest, folks. Authentic.
But this is the game to defend him.
Yeah, but if Tom Brady throws that throw right there, you'd be like, man, he knew exactly where the defender was. That is the most precise throw that you could possibly throw in the NFL. That is the only place that Devin Funchess could get it. It's safe that you don't get a pick six right there close to the end zone. Well done. You would have heard that. And I'm not saying that these guys didn't give Cam enough credit, but you look at that and you go, well, Devin had a drop. Yeah, it was one drop. He had another drop in another situation. In their own, in a vacuum, they're not crazy town. But then when you think of Cam Newton and how accurate he was on a couple of those drop throws, you're like, geez, the narrative could be flipped so quickly with a couple of these things. So, Joey, you're the one. You said this after the game. You were tweeting me or something, texting me. You said this. You saw Cam talking to him. We showed the clip of it. You know, Cam Newton, he started to get frustrated at the end. You could see like he was trying to keep it off his face, but it was hard because he was playing pretty darn well. He wasn't the problem. Right? Yeah. So where do you think, tell me where, what do you come away from with that Devin Funchess moment? The talk where he's like, because you're the one that said, and boy, it took me like an hour to find it.
Yeah, I noticed it, man. I saw him coming in from the sideline, and, Funchess had dropped another ball, I believe. And he came over to Cam, Funchess did. Came over to Cam and was saying, like, my fault, my bad. And Cam was, like, turning his face away and putting his hands out, kind of like, stop talking. Right, just, I don't want to hear it. And then Funchess stopped, and Cam said, are you better than that? And Funchess said, I'm better than that. And then Cam replied, well, then be better than that. And
is that really what they said?
Yes, I could tell. I could not see Funches because he had his back to me. But judging by what Cam was saying to him, I could kind of figure out what the conversation was.
Joey with the lip reading skills. I like that.
Dude, I looked at it and I was like, it makes sense though. You know, how about this? It's apocryphal. And that means if that's not what they said, Joey, they should have said that. If that's not how the conversation went, that's exactly how it should have went.
Right.
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah, and there's no doubt in my mind Cam was frustrated with him and was trying to stay positive with him. You know,
and that was early. That was the first quarter.
It was. Yeah. Right, it was early. I think, if I remember correctly, that drop Funches had would have been for a first down, but because he didn't catch it, we had to kick the field goal. If I remember correctly.
It was very early in the game. Let's just say this. If Tom Brady comes off the sidelines, says that to a receiver, it's Tom Brady demands excellence.
Exactly right.
Actually, no. You know, on that first drive, the one where he laid into him, I believe that was the Jarius Wright touchdown. And on that play, on that play, he just kind of had to wait for someone to come open. And listen, Tony, I'm in the same boat as you, man. I am a consummate Cam Newton defender. But there are some games where he makes bad plays and some ball-headed decisions.
Sure.
But then there are games where you fight tooth and nail for your quarterback, and this was one of them. Cam Newton was amazing in this game. He really was absolutely on fire. And I can tell the frustration that he has because especially after the whole Kelvin Benjamin debacle, if I had a more accurate quarterback. Well, then it's like when Cam is on fire, he's in the zone, and his receivers are dropping passes, and CJ
like you're not letting him get hot.
Yeah, you're not letting
my man get hot.
Right.
They're not letting him, man. They're putting the ice on the burners. They're icing up their quarterback, man. That's not what the ice up is about. They're using the ice up wrong, and someone needs to tell them.
That is the truth. Turn it to icy hot, bro, not icy cold. You go to this. I think another cool thing about this is you wanna know how good this game was for Cam Newton, or at least how comfortable I feel with this game for Cam Newton. I don't need to go out and say this is the best game that Cam Newton's ever had because I don't think it's the case. I don't need to go and tell people like, hey, look at this game if you want to see all the crap I've been telling you for the last 7 years or whatever it's been. I think 7 years, 8 years, right? Because I feel comfortable where I'm at. I think the point that shows our comfort with Cam, his leadership in many ways, his decision-making, his accuracy, his poise, his composure, all those things, is that Cam got lit the hell up in the head. Boom! To the head by this dude named Kazi. He's kicked out of the game, and we are barely, it's a side note on this show. And not because we don't care about Cam and his safety, not because we're accustomed to Cam getting hit like this, because we are. But it's like this. Yeah. It's like, dude, you can hit my man in the damn head, and he still does this. That's how
Superman
comfortable I
ain't
felt.
Just a nickname, y'all. Superman ain't just a nickname.
All right, we got to talk about this because I told you earlier that the number one response to the major storyline for this team going forward was, can the defense rebound? I got to say it was a close second, had to be a close second with talking about DJ Moore.
Yes, let's
do this.
DJ
Moore, is all right. So this has been a question about this has brought some tough questions to Panther fans. Something that we've actually talked about in the show, never with a player of DJ Moore's draft status before, right? Because he's the number one. But like questions about how Ron has been about bringing and integrating certain players, how he responds to players that get in the doghouse. Not that I'm saying DJ Moore is, but you're starting to go this. Hey, DJ Moore, number 1 draft pick, first catch of his NFL career is a 51-yard touchdown. Why the hell don't we see him on the field more? Right? That's brought to light. Some people are dovetailing that into questions about coaching and the personnel decision-making. Guys, I'm going to open it up to you, Joey. DJ Moore, Mooresville. He had it was a small sample set of plays, large impact on this game.
Yeah, he took that. I think it was the first play, the opening handoff on a reverse or a jet sweep, and there was nothing there. He put a couple of moves on, and he picked up like 5 yards. It was impressive to see that quick display of agility and the coordination he displayed was really impressive. And then, of course, late in the game, he takes one from Cam and goes 51 yards with it and made it look easy. Like, easy.
Yeah.
And you see these little things and you're like, why is this guy not on the field? And then you see Torrey Smith getting 2 false start penalties on him, dropping passes. And sometimes it felt like he wasn't even trying. Or I'd say it looked like he wasn't even trying.
Well, great. But into his defense, fantastic, phenomenal catch on that touchdown. I mean, Cam throws him a missile. He all hands it. You know what I'm saying? So, like, I think this is with Torrey Smith is that he was a pretty good player at one point where his athleticism and speed separated him.
Yes.
Now, that might not be as a decisive factor. And so he's just a pretty good player.
Right. And he's a veteran, and you want a veteran in the young locker room. I get it. I really do. But are you handicapping yourself by keeping this young, explosive, dynamic player on the bench?
Yeah, like, is that this whole idea, this goes back to something that the coaching staff has continued to see. You know, we've heard this with players in the past. Like, we're giving them the full playbook. We heard this about Ben Wickery learning the nickel position, the outside position. We heard this about Curtis Samuel last year about learning all. We heard that about Devin Funchess when he first came in. Is that like you're teaching them every receiving position? So and then a couple of weeks later, when you don't see him on the field, Ron Rivera comes out and he said it. This has happened multiple times. Maybe we've put too much on his plate. Yeah. You know, maybe this. And then he catches this damn touchdown, and then he comes out after the game and says, we need more DJ Moore. Cody, how do you handle this? How do you handle this? And it doesn't get easier next week or after the bye when Curtis Samuel comes back. You want to talk about cracking the nut when it comes to the running backs? How are you going to crack this nut?
And then, so the Panthers and the Falcons took 2 wide receivers in the first round. We were the only teams to do so. I seem to recall Calvin Ridley getting a few catches and making a few big plays. And I'm sorry, but you're not going to tell me that someone that went to Alabama is smarter and more able to handle the playbook than DJ Moore, okay? Listen, I'm just saying if Calvin Ridley was out there.
Long in the tooth.
Yeah, he is older, but he went to Alabama, man. That's all I'm going to say. That's all I'm going to say. But listen, dude. DJ Moore, it goes back to Ron Rivera. I'm going to keep on asking these questions about Ron Rivera. Why does it take him so long to come around on these things that to us as Panther fans is almost self-evident? You know, that if you have a young, dynamic player and you drafted him for a specific reason to give your dynamic quarterback a genuine threat on the field, and you're playing in a division rival's home. Why are you not utilizing him? Why are you making him learn the X, Y, and Z receiver? Why not give him a lane, let him stay in that lane, and let the man ball? I mean, he has all the physical traits that you ever want in a receiver. Steve Smith has signed off on the young man. I'm not understanding what goes through our coaches' minds when they choose to limit the amount of snaps that DJ Moore is receiving.
And, I mean, here, we're not even just talking about limiting, right? That's okay, too, if you don't want to make him the name starter, right? Like, kind of, you know, right. There's a name starter, and there are guys that are barely starters. You could start Torrey Smith on the first play and then start mixing the personnel up. Ron Rivera, or actually Eric Washington, talked about this on the defensive side, that the coaching staff is going to have to reevaluate how they're rotating the personnel, and if they're getting that right mix. You could apply that to the offensive side of the ball. We don't just need to see his name on the screen at the beginning of the game and starting, but you know, you put him out there to do some things that he can do. How hard is it to run a wide receiver screen when you send Torrey Smith vertical? So you try to stretch some guys on the vertical end. You put a third receiver. You maybe move McCaffrey out into the slot. This is what I would do if I was an offensive coordinator, and I don't even know enough about X's and O's to do it. But I would say this is, let's put Torrey Smith out there as the decoy, as the deep threat. Let's motion McCaffrey out of the backfield to one side to draw the defense to that side, the same side Torrey Smith is going to run the vertical. And then you ask DJ Moore, lined up on the other side, to just run the wide receiver bubble screen or whatever it's called, the smoke or whatever, where they just throw it out to him and the mug tries to make one tackle miss. Those are things that don't require you to have a great understanding or over understanding of NFL technique. You know, at some point, like, they don't have to be Jerry Rice technicians for you to go, hey, we're going to start you. And we're doing it on defense now with Dante Jackson. We're putting Dante Jackson out there. It's the same thing, even worse, actually. So the question is, do you just say this? Do we not force him in, but say, look, we drafted him. We believe in him. Time to do it.
Let him be an option. Let Cam go through his reads and let him be an option. And it's funny, Tony, that you mentioned send Torrey Smith out deep, because that's actually what happened. They called that play again because if you remember in the game, Cam Newton threw a bomb down the field to Torrey Smith, and he missed the ball. But they noticed on that.
Yeah, it's slightly behind him.
Yeah, and they noticed on that exact play that DJ Moore was open. So they said, well, let's run that back. But this time, let's send the ball to DJ Moore. And look what happens, man. It was the play that we needed to put us right back into the game. I mean, players like that will put you in the game when you need to come back and steal a victory. And that's what he's there for. Let him at least be an option. If you want to put Devin Funchess as the number one receiver, let it happen. But at least put DJ on the field.
Two questions for you, Joey, and then we got to start getting to these cat calls. First question is this is what Norv Turner's supposed to help Ron Rivera with.
Yeah.
Like, it's not actually a question, it's a statement. And the question is, how do you feel about that statement? And the second question is that how do we solve this when Curtis Samuel gets back?
I missed the first part of your question, Tony. It skipped. But the second part I'll go ahead and address. Obviously, that's another mouth to feed, so to speak. And you definitely want to give him a chance to get on the field. But it's going to be a gradual thing with him coming off that injury. I know this is not going to throw him in right away and let him, run 50 plays or whatever. But he's proven himself. He's proven to be a weapon for Cam. So you got to get him on the field too. I mean, if that means that Torrey Smith has to have a few plays less, okay. Samuel's a burner.
The first part of the question, yeah, you're right. Is that it's like, hey, we got to find a way. I mean, if you got the talent, you got to find a way to use it. All right. So the first part of the question is this, Joey. It goes to Norv Turner. One of the things I was hoping he would be is a guy that had enough stature, enough that he could even override Rivera's reservations about some things. Maybe Rivera's kind of innate cautiousness on these kind of things. I was hoping that that Norv Turner would come in and be like, "Come on, dude! Like, we got to do it. We got to do it."
Yeah.
You know what I'm saying? And, that would override it.
I would think that to be the case. Rivera, worked for Norv in San Diego. As a coach. And I think he does look up to Norv as something of a, confidant, maybe?
Yeah, mentor.
Yeah, mentor. That's where I was really looking for. Mentor. And that, I believe Norv does have Ron's ear. And if he feels strongly about something, I believe that Rivera would acquiesce.
Maybe Norv doesn't want to do it too soon. That's what I'm hoping. I'm pro Norv. All these mugs that are like Norv is just a different Mike Shula or whatever, like it's same. No, I'm sorry.
Yes.
I have not felt this way when I look at this offense. When I look at the way this offense looked with 3 schlub-ass offensive linemen playing in the same game. You know what I'm saying? And that's mean to say because these guys out there working hard and they actually played a damn good game for who they are. But we ain't got no Dallas offensive line. That's all I'm saying. Is that with Mike Shula, man, we might have scored 0 points. With that, personally, that's how I think. So I think that people are undermining how good and how sharp the offense has already looked in this case. The other thing I think that stands out to me is, do you guys? I kind of want to send it, and if you can pull it up, Cody, it's a clip. I think I have it as it's noted as Dante Jackson's own coverage. Yeah. So Dante Jackson has been a supreme talent for this team already. Do I like his body language at times? No. I think he looks a little too like he's like this. I run 4.2. Like I don't even need to line up. I'm gonna catch up with you. I feel like that's how he looks sometimes. He's made a couple of rookie mistakes. Now, this is a play right here where I talked to Brandon Simmons, a former ECU wide receiver. He's now quarterbacks coach at a big high school in Raleigh. And he said, look, this is smash cover going up against the cover 4 on one side of cover 2. And I was hoping he was going to tell me who was to blame on this play. And basically he said, like, it's kind of like both on Shaq and Dante Jackson. This is meant to beat that coverage specifically. And since they didn't play it perfectly, either one of them, it didn't work. He was not one that was going to say Dante Jackson screwed up entirely. And he didn't come out and say that Shaq Thompson screwed up entirely. The point I'm trying to get to is this. There's a run play, too, on a drive at the end of the second quarter where Dante Jackson missed a tackle by the running back. He talks about this. He's over leveraged one way. The guy cuts inside of him. Okay. Then he misses. He doesn't. Then Ridley scores the touchdown on him as well. I almost feel like Ron Rivera in 2012 would have benched him. That's what he did to Josh Norman, right? This is in some ways. So does that, I guess what I'm trying to get to, does that suggest or imply that even Ron Rivera has even evolved a little bit in how he deals with, like, hey, this guy's talented. He's helping the team. He made a couple of mistakes. Do I like his body language? Do I like his attitude back at me maybe a little bit? His overconfidence? Maybe not. But that's what Josh Norman did. He just didn't happen to be a second-round pick.
Yeah, true. I think we also have to think about maybe Ron Rivera doesn't have that luxury right now.
He didn't in 2012 either.
Yeah, I mean, yeah, that's 100% true. I think that, veteran leadership in the locker room is also important when talking about this. Guys like Julius Peppers and Thomas Davis and Luke, they set a culture and a standard that the players need to adhere by. So really that's not just on Ron. I mean, it is. He's the coach, and all the other coaches, the onus is on them. But, the veterans, if he has bad body language or if something isn't right with Dante, then they need to be able to pull him aside and say, listen, young man, keep your head up, do your thing, and just go out there and put your best foot forward. Personally, I think that Dante Jackson, and I've said before, he's better in man coverage than he is zone. So, I think that if you put him on Calvin, let him man him up, I think that's a much better matchup, and I'm hoping that it's something that we do next time around.
Lynn brings up a fantastic point. She says, but Tony, he, referring to Ron Rivera, is under a microscope. Tepper wouldn't be happy seeing him benched. And we can't afford to bench him. A lot of these things is one of the things that I think that this, and I guess I'm trying to come back, is not even actually a criticism on Ron Rivera in this case, is maybe we're actually secretly and smallly seeing Ron Rivera change a little bit or grow, become a little wiser. And knowing this is I just felt like that early relationship with Josh Norman was like, actually, it's about peeing on trees a little bit. And what maybe Ron Rivera is just a little bit more aware of in picking and choosing what he needs to make a huge deal. Again, I saw the guys all get on buses with no ties. No ties. They were going to Atlanta on the bus. The whole team, nobody had ties. I don't know if you guys remember, he benched Cam for the opening play against the Seattle Seahawks game for not wearing a tie. So maybe these are small things that we are, like you said, Lynn, we're all put all of this under the microscope. So just my thoughts. All right, guys.
I'm sorry.
Go ahead, Joe. Go ahead.
I think that's an owner thing. Jerry Richardson being from the old school, players wore ties. Tepper's here now, different mentality. You guys don't have to wear ties. Just, look nice.
Right,
I think Joey hit the nail on the head with that one.
Scary. Again, I was telling somebody this today about Jerry Richardson. Is like, gosh, how many things we dismissed and overlooked about this guy, even to that point. It's like, good God, boy, you were so Mista. Mista had to be the king of that plantation, in my opinion. All right. So it's the C3 podcast. Look, we're about to jump into the cat calls. Look, we're the longest running Panthers podcast. We're happy that all of you joined us. We got a record-setting audience on YouTube for us tonight. One of the great things about our audience, and it's not really an audience. I don't like to refer to you guys as audience because you guys are the show. You're part of the show. You're not listening to us. You are helping us. You are driving our discussion in the right directions, and we appreciate that. And if you are watching on YouTube, you guys, look, you go watching our statistics. Our show might not get the most views, but boy, people stay. They stay to the end, and they chat the whole time. It's an amazing experience. The YouTube chat's off the chain tonight. Thank you so much for your viewership, and you can continue to be a part of that conversation by smashing that thumbs up button. Take your phone, turn it from landscape to portrait. My mug actually gets smaller when you do it, and then you smash the thumbs up button, and that helps us continue to grow. But you can also be a part of the actual conversation on the podcast. You can hear the viewers by calling into the cat, or you can talk to the listeners on iTunes, Stitcher, TuneIn Radio later on. People listen to this podcast all across the world. We have a great friends in the UK that always message me after the show. You can be a part of that conversation by calling the Cat Calls line. The number is 252-228-5098. You can leave a voicemail anytime and have your opinion, your voice heard. Speak to Panther Nation with us. We're going to jump into those calls right now.
So what are your thoughts on catcalling?
Yeah, it's pretty. You shouldn't do that to somebody.
And how did that make you feel?
Very uncomfortable.
So how do you think catcalling makes the person feel?
It feels good, like.
Who's that cat sitting in the back corner with his face buried in the snow? Who's that kid that can use one?
Hey, what's up, guys? It's Alex here. Just calling in. Feel like could just call and kind of just want to bitch about Olsen and Darrell Williams going down. But I'm sure we'll have done plenty of that earlier in the show. Obviously, I don't think Williams was ready to come back, and that's really unfortunate hearing that it is a refracturing of Greg's foot for the season. But anyways, don't want to necessarily harp on that and move on to the next game, right? So yeah, I think it's going to be
miss this from last week,
a pretty big a game for DJ Moore against the Falcons.
Oh, look at this.
If not, it doesn't necessarily need to be, but I know they're going to be playing up the storyline of the two top drafted wideouts
so this
year. And so far, neither of them have really produced much out of the preseason, right? But who knows? Maybe that storyline might kick up a little fire for each of them. Hopefully just for DJ and not Ridley. But anyway, so I'm excited to see what this would have been a great call if I would have played it. And hope that we give him some opportunities to be involved and get going. I also think, as much as we've been hit with the injury bug, the Falcons got Deion Jones now on IR and Keanu Neal, who are arguably two of their best defenders. So hopefully that means we're going to have a little bit more space when it comes to the secondary, and someone like DJ could shine more, or just our receivers in general. So as much as it sucks for us on the injury bug, we at least maybe get a little bit of a break there. So excited to see what happens. Thus far, feeling optimistic about this season, and keep pounding. All right. Bye.
That call was a top-rate call, and my fault for missing it last week. But talk about nailing the storylines, nailing it on the dang church door like Martin Luther did in the Protestant Reformation, bro. Just bang, 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 the 95 Theses. He straight came out there and let people know DJ Moore do, Calvin Ridley also do, and both of those guys showed up in that game, and injuries continue to be a damn problem.
Continue to be a problem. Shout out, that's Alex McKenzie in our chat room. And man, you're kind of like Nostradamus, dude. Calling them with them lotto numbers, dude. Come on, help out.
I know, I got the timestamp on it, so it's straight before the game too. I just missed it last week.
Yeah, man. Listen, I mean, that's why I was hopeful going into the game, because both teams were kind of busted up at some very important positions. I don't know, but then our defense, even though they were all pretty much healthy, just vanished off the face of the earth, at least towards the second, third, and fourth quarter. So, I mean, yeah, man, Alex kind of hit the nail on the head with that one. Our personnel is awesome, but if we're not healthy, it could very, very easily be another 2016 season. And we're hoping that doesn't happen.
A lot of Cersei hate going on in the chat room now. I don't like the mess, but he is concussed. Next call.
Hey, Carolina. Cat Chronicles. This is my first time calling in. I'm a big Panthers fan.
What's up,
I think
man?
everybody's freaking out about this loss. I mean, the defensive line, they just had one bad game. I think we're going to be all right. I see a lot of potential on the offense. I see a lot of potential on Ian Thomas. DJ Moore finally broke out today. I mean, I think we're gonna be all right. Luke Kuechly,
I think
he
so
got blocked
too.
on a few of those big runs by Atlanta. I just think everybody freaking out. I think we're gonna be all right. We just need to get healthy, get Curtis Samuel back. We get Curtis Samuel back. I think they can open up the offense more. I think they need to give CJ Anderson more touches. Even give I can't think of his name right now. Hemorrhoid Spain more touches as well. I think we're gonna be all right.
That will never happen on this team. Don't worry. Great idea won't ever happen. In fact, I didn't even know he was still on the team, and I'm his biggest fan.
And listen, can we talk just very briefly about Luke on the season? You know, everyone's talking about, oh, he missed tackles. He has a combined 21 tackles and a total of 19 just by himself. Okay, so when Luke misses, you better watch it closely because it's a rare sight, okay? He's still all over the field. Overall, our entire defense just kind of had an off game. I'm with you, man. I didn't catch your name. But yeah, I'm not worried about this, man. We haven't seen enough to hit the panic button. There's no reason to go to DEFCON 4 yet, man. There's too much football left to be played, and there's too many good players on our team for us to just freak out about this right now.
Joey, I'm highlighting the tweet that you brought. You said, hey, this needs to be featured on the show. Josh Klein rules.
I thought it was something that, when I read it, it's like, oh, you know what? He's right. And
Roaring Riot.
Yeah, exactly. He was a calming voice amongst the noise and banter. So I thought that tweet made a...
Yeah, the tweet reads, Panthers lost by 1 score on the road to a playoff team That's a little premature. To a former playoff team, to a division rival. That's what it says. That happens to be a division rival, very talented team, I would describe them. But while missing 2 wide receivers, their Pro Bowl tight end, starting a left tackle they signed on Wednesday. Maybe it's not time to sound the alarms. And I think that's what that caller was not just trying to get to, was getting to, is that like, hey, the fact that we look that good on the road against a very good and improved – look, the Atlanta Falcons are just getting better. They just keep reloading on offense. Their defense every year gets better under Dan Quinn. It's just that simple. It's better each and every year under Dan Quinn. And if you don't believe me, then just look at this. Is Alford – nobody ever talks junk about Alford no more. And Trufant is legit. If he just caught more interceptions – he would be our top-rated corner in the league in many ways. So you look at this tweet and you hear this call, and I think that's what we're trying to get to at the beginning of the show is I don't think that's why we started out the show with the idea that the sky is falling at this point. The idea that we were that close on the road with like nothing shows how good Cam Newton is. That's what I would say.
Yeah.
Incredible.
Incredible. Next call.
It's Brian.
Incredible.
I just called.
It's Brian.
I want to make one more comment.
He's back.
I forgot to say this when I was called the first time. What do y'all think about the coaches and the former Panthers GM struggling? Like you got Brandon Beane, you got Gettleman, You got Steve Wilkes,
Oh, good
Josh McDermott.
question.
You guys are not having.
Oh my God, what a
NFL.
good
Well, they were
point.
coaches and GMs for the Panthers, and they've been a successful franchise for almost a decade now. And these guys are struggling. Have they not learned anything from Ron Rivera? I mean, why are they struggling so much?
And what does that tell us about Ron Rivera?
You think they got the job too soon? You think they're just not fit to be head coaches? What you think on that? Thank you.
Fantastic. That might be
awesome.
the point of the night. The point that what a deep point that is, because one of the things that is talking about in the national headlines, guys, is a lot of things they keep talking about the Bill Belichick coaching tree not working out. You look at, you know what I'm saying, is that's what the national pundits have been looking at. But in some ways, you look at, or not in some ways, in real ways, McDermott really struggling in Buffalo. Defense gives up tons of points in week 1. You thought at least that would be the anchor. He comes there, he has Billy Bean. And the other side, I'm starting to worry about this, is that is Wilkes going to make it as the coach through the season? And I don't really know. I don't think that anybody should fire coach that prematurely. But, boy, have they just looked putrid as a team, Arizona Cardinals.
They really have. You want to take this, Joey?
I think, you got two guys who were coached by someone who was an assistant coach for a very, very long time. I think Ron Rivera got his first coaching gig after like 8 or 9 interviews. Is that about right?
Like 18 years of being an assistant coach. It was something crazy. Like, good God, you can't pass on this guy anymore. You're starting to say, I think it's because he's of Spanish or Mexican descent.
Right. Yeah.
Whoa.
He was a coordinator under many different coaches. So he had a real strong understanding of, what it takes to be a coach. These guys, they haven't had haven't been around many different coaches, at least on the NFL level. I know the Bills coach, what's his name? Name escapes me.
McDermott.
Sean McDermott.
Yeah. McDermott was in Philadelphia. I know he was there and then came to Carolina after run out of Philly. And then
but not a crazy tenure though.
No, not at all. Like, I think it was his first actual opportunity to be the defensive coordinator. And Philly was like the worst in the league in points given up. So anyway, the other coach out in Arizona, I know he was with the Panthers for a while. But
and I think he was actually under Norv Turner in San Diego. I think if you go back, I think that him and Ron coached there, and I think he was like an assistant there, not a huge role,
right?
But not a definitive, proven long-term answer. Only 1 year as a defensive coordinator, and it wasn't even a good year in Carolina, to be honest.
No, and at least with McDermott, I mean, he was the defensive coordinator in 2015 for us. And before that, I believe in 2013 as well, right? My memory kind of lapses a little bit. Yeah, okay.
He took over in 2012, I think.
Yeah, okay. So he's been a defensive coordinator. He was a defensive coordinator for a while. So I understand giving him a job. But it's like, man, we went 11-5 in 2017, and that was good. But then Steve Wilkes instantly got a job off of that. And I kind of think in the NFL, everyone's desperate for a head coach. And like, oh, yeah, he had a good defense. He comes highly, mentioned. He'll do. Man, I just don't know, man. I think right now the Cardinals and the Bills are probably two of the worst teams in football right now. I don't think their rosters are up to snuff. And whenever you have a young quarterback that you bring in, it really is important that you have a good offensive coordinator or even an offensive-minded head coach that can really show them the reins early on. And Steve Wilks and McDermott, they're not that. So, yeah, man, it might be tough sledding for former Panther coaches this year. I hope that maybe we hold on to Washington a little bit longer, maybe because of this.
I like Eric Washington. I love Eric Washington. I think he's called good defenses. We've only had 2 games, small sample set, but I love a guy who, first of all, I have a natural affinity for coordinators who are on the field. I don't know why. I just like that Washington's not in the booth. I like that he's on the sidelines. Second, I love Washington because he perpetually looks angry. Good play, mad as hell. Great, terrible play, mad as hell. That mug is mad. He got the mad face on all the time. I love it. I'm 100% behind Washington. I don't think we saw a large enough sample set from Wilks as a coordinator, but I think he could be a good head coach. Because I think he's a motivator. I think he's just so eloquent and so well spoken, and that's not surprising to me. I just think that that's kind of what head coaches do, is that they let their coordinators do a lot of the detailed work. They're the guys that just are the yes or no final decision people. So I think Wilks has the potential to be a good head coach. I don't think he proved himself one bit as a defensive coordinator. Not saying that he hasn't proven himself as a mind or whatever. So don't go crazy on that.
No,
Go ahead, Joe.
I think you're on to something. He could be a good coach, but he's got to have strong coordinators. He has to have strong coordinators. And if he doesn't, he will struggle.
Where I'm blown away, though, not that I thought the Bills were going to be good, but I thought that McDermott and that defense, I thought the team would just be better than they are. I mean, they're terrible, too. I'm not overly surprised by Arizona, but they've been worse than I expected. But Buffalo has been way worse than I expected.
They might have the number 1 pick in the draft next year. They legit might have the number 1 pick in the draft next year.
Very possible.
Maybe Brandon Beane didn't know what's up. Maybe he won't get as we thought with this whole Benjamin stuff. Benjamin's sorry. I don't like that dude.
Yeah. Hey, what's going on, guys? This is your boy, Brandon Herbert, the Black Cat. I had to give myself a day to calm down. And
Black Cat.
I'm not pissed about losing to Atlanta anymore.
Black
because
Cat
we can
hates
get them
Ron
back.
Rivera.
But I'm sorry if you have to use your bleeper, Tony.
I don't got one.
But there's a few things that I want to say. We need to fucking fire fucking Ron Rivera.
I didn't even know he was going to say that.
I said it from the beginning of the season that he is a good coach. He's not a Super Bowl winning coach, and there's a distinctive difference. Look at the last 5 Super Bowls that the Super Bowl champions. First of all, they're always aggressive. The play calling is good. If you're a defensive coach, that crap that garbage we've seen, that shit got to go. That's your forte. Defense. That's your forte. Why do we keep on running the same bland ass coverage? That this zone coverage, that if any fucking good quarterback can
I love it so
that
much.
coverage apart. Because all you have to do, all Matt Ryan was doing, he wasn't really taking beat shots or nothing like that. All he had to do was just run a slant. A fucking slant.
Yeah.
I mean, that's all they were doing. They were just picking them apart.
Fucking slant.
It pisses me off so much. And that's not even the only reason why I said fire Ron Rivera, because that's just one game. We all get that. But throughout his career in Carolina, you can look back and actually pull up examples. He is horrible at time management. Horrible. Probably one of the worst
That's
coaches
not a
in the
bad
Africa time
criticism.
management. How many times, like, he did it in this game?
Could be.
We had like a minute and something to go, and why are we not doing no huddle? Why are we freaking taking our time, acting like that we have all the freaking time in the world? This blows my mind. And then he has the audacity. He's horrible player management. Has the audacity to say after the game, "Oh, I think we should use freaking DJ Moore more." Well, dog, you think? It's not freaking rocket science. It's not rocket science. Like, I'm kicked off to the utmost. Yes, I get it. He's a very good coach. He'll probably have us in the playoffs consistently. But I'm not just. Pence fans need to stop making excuses. I promise you, we need to stop making excuses and look at this shit.
Firing all cylinders. That's one of the most intense.
Cloud laying mother. Dude, brother,
he went nuclear. All right, so a lot of unpack there. Comes back to this. Is that, you got to wonder at some point, how do you identify when someone's hit the ceiling of what they can be? And he is referring to Ron Rivera. You go on to this, is that I don't know how to really get into the coverage stuff, to be honest, because I understand the clock management side. I understand soften, bend, but don't break, because a touchdown loses the game. An almost touchdown doesn't lose the game. So that is, so I don't know how I feel about that. The other thing I don't know how I feel about this is that is a no huddle hurry up offense really that much faster than a no huddle offense? And what I mean by that is that you saw in that last minute, Cam Newton walks up to the line. They kind of knew the play they were calling. He's calling it as they're walking up. They're not over rushing. He's like, I got to catch my breath, a hair. There's no sense in huddling. There's no sense in calling good timeout. But is the 3 seconds that I would have saved so tremendous that I have to run? I'm just saying this. Sometimes do we need people to look like they're going fast for them actually to be up tempo? Does that make sense?
Not really, man. I gotta be honest with you. But I understand what you're saying. But at the same time, okay, one, Brandon, we love you, dog. I appreciate the interview.
That was an all-time call.
Yeah, that was literally an all-time call. Everyone else stepped their game up. Brandon just showed you how to do it. But listen, man. I feel like, and correct me if I'm wrong, Tony and Joey. I feel that we criticize Ron just about every Tuesday now. Every Tuesday we have something to say about him. Why are we able to see something that he is not? Why is he so conservative when you have so many good players on the team? And I understand the frustration. I mean, I'm not necessarily on Brandon's side of it yet. I'm not yelling for Ron
you're not ready to press
fired.
the red button.
Yeah, I'm not ready to throw out the baby with the bathwater, dude. But what I am saying though is that adaptability and being able to evolve the way you do things is a very important thing in the NFL, because what people do, what teams do, it changes every year. So you have to be able to switch it up, and that is something that Ron Rivera hasn't really shown a tendency to do very well. And yeah, his clock management has always been terrible. I don't know if it's ever going to get
Which
better.
is surprising for a defensive coach.
Yeah.
Slightly to me. It seems like they are more aware of the clock than anybody.
There should be. Someone needs to tell Ron that. I don't know, man. And then he had the nickname Riverboat Ron. It's like we all
that's
want
all fake.
that guy.
That's all bull crap. It's not real.
I think it probably
never was. Yeah, it never was. I don't like to call. I'm not ready to talk junk about the soft coverages yet this season. I'm ready because, first of all, I like what Eric Washington has done. Second is that we really weren't in a position where we were just playing soft against the Atlanta Falcons. Did we blitz them a lot? No. Did we play zone more than we played man? Probably. I'm sure we did. But at the same time, like, it really comes down to the end of the game. Is like, it wasn't the coverage that didn't work. Is those most just couldn't stop a running back to save their life in this game. It's not like, oh, like y'all got scared. Y'all just mugs couldn't stop the run, you know? And so we've talked about this, Joey. It was a nuclear call from Black Cat. It got us fight. It got me laughing. I had, but you know, sometimes you got to let it fly like that. But comes back a lot of the themes we've talked about in the show: coaching, DJ Moore, personnel decisions, how they deal with rookies, those types of things. All interesting stuff right there. Great call. Thanks for calling in, Brendan.
We need to stop making excuses.
Oh, he's back.
Because
he's back.
This year, you cannot blame Cam Newton for anything. He has been outstanding. And you know I am one of Cam Newton's biggest critics because I know that he can be better, and he's showing it. Give him a little bit of talent. He's showing you what he can do, but you won't give him the most talent that he can possibly possess. You won't give him the best to offer. Why is DJ Moore, like, why? You see, first of all, we need to get this in our damn mind that Devin Funchess is the number one receiver. First of all,
this is his second target.
Anybody with the eye, he'll have one or two big games, but he's not going to give you that consistently. Don't give me that 77 yards or whatever the crap he had. He's not a number one receiver. He's a good number two, but I don't even want him as a number two because, first of all, he's dropping the ball at an alarming rate, really. And secondly, can somebody tell me why he keeps going to his knees to make those catches? If you look at those, the ball placement was excellent by Cam Newton.
Going to his
normal receivers would catch it low and keep running. That's why Cam Newton threw it low, because he wanted him to avoid the hit, so he tried to protect his receiver. And for example, Christian McCaffrey threw it low, he caught it and kept running. That's what you do. Like,
he also is a lot lower to the ground
with him. If he don't watch out, he's gonna get traded like we did Kelvin Benjamin. Like, and I'm tired of, another thing I'm tired of is Panthers fans sitting there talking about, complaining about Christian McCaffrey, running the ball. Do you not realize that he's averaging about 5 yards a carry the first two games? He's only running the ball. He only had 8 rushes. 8 rushes. He's amazing out the backfield catching, but he only had 8 rushes. What do you want him to do with 8 rushes? I mean, there's just so much to pick apart from that game. It's freaking ridiculous. And look, James Bradbury.
He had a good game.
Somewhat of an apology. He's been a decent cornerback for us this year.
But that's the truth.
I mean, he's horrible at tracking the ball. That pass that Julio Jones caught, that was crazy. If he would have tracked the ball decently, that would have been a pick. Like, you have to be better at tracking the ball to be a cornerback in the league. The defensive scheme is horrible. I see that the offensive scheme is helping and beneficial to Cam. Hopefully, if we have conversations, we'll have DJ Moore.
Dude, I'm crazy to see this. Does he come back for a third call next? The last call. Let's see who it is. Is it Black Cat?
Hey, y'all.
No, it's G. My G.
Pause it for just a second. Okay, guys. I don't know if you picked up on it or not, but I think Brandon was upset. I'm just saying. Okay, go ahead.
I thought he had calmed down. He said he had to take a day to calm down.
Right. But Brandon didn't calm down at all. Brandon,
imagine when he was like on Sunday.
Oh my God!
Wow. Yo, Brandon is now a C3 legend, man. We love you, Brandon. We love that energy, man. And listen, we understand it, dude. There's some frustrating things that we gotta fix, man. You are not wrong. You are not wrong.
I still tell you, you want to know what's up with Devin Funches? Any mug that says their favorite food is salad. I told you that fake campaign he went on about making fettuccine shrimp Alfredo or whatever it was, all fake. Mug's favorite food is salad. Back to you.
You're not wrong.
He said it.
G. Cavassier, let's hear that, man.
Go. Play. Stop. Play. Come on. What in the world?
Oh, no, I made you break it.
Yep, you broke it. Hold on. Keep going. Carry the conversation while I reload it.
Carry the conversation. I mean, listen, Joey, did you agree with Brandon?
Yeah, I mean,
that's like a nuclear question right there.
Yeah, he made so many good points, but I understand he's upset. Gotta remember, we don't sit in the classroom with these guys. We're not around them anywhere near the same amount as coaches are. And I'm sure he has a reason he's doing what he is, but at least we know he's noticing DJ Moore by saying we need more DJ Moore. I bet he's thinking, man, I should have been playing this kid the whole time.
Yeah. All right, let's see if this works.
Hey, y'all. How's everybody doing?
There he is.
This is G. Cavassier. Before I get into the Atlanta and Carolina game, I just want to send my prayers and all my emotions to the victims that was harmed by Hurricane Florence. My hometown of Jacksonville, North Carolina, got destroyed.
Calming voice.
I've seen pictures on Facebook. I've seen flooding and all types of stuff from Jacksonville to Fayetteville to Goldsboro to Raleigh. Just guys, keep them in your prayers and in your thoughts, please, because Florence has torn North Carolina apart. Now, the game that I know everybody witnessed, Atlanta versus Carolina, I was satisfied with the game. There's only one part I wasn't really satisfied with, and that was the defense. Our defense looked horrible. I mean, usually we can stop a run because our motto, keep pounding. But the number one commandment, you will not run on the Panthers. You won't. You might get one at the 10-yard line and rush one in for 10 yards, but you will not rush on the Panthers. I don't know what Ron Rivera has to do or Eric Washington to get in these boys' head, but to me it seems like the defense was like lazy to me. It seems like they weren't really putting in a lot of effort in it, Give a shout out to Jackson catching an interception. That was an amazing interception. It really was. But besides that, you guys seen the game. Matt Ryan did the quarterback sneak, which was luck, and then he actually rushed in the end zone. And I couldn't believe that, But you know what? I'm not going to panic. All these fair weather fans who are not really Panther fans are, calling for Ron Rivera's job and like, oh, God, we're going to suck this year. Calm down. Relax.
It's like the opposite of Brandon.
What a different tone.
Cincinnati this Sunday. I think we can stop Cincinnati because through my eyes, you stop A.J. Green, they're really average football team. Then the week after that, we have a bye. And I know during that bye, a lot of things they're going to have to focus on and get some relaxation and everything like that. But, after that, Thomas Davis is coming back after that bye. So that is a good thing. That is a very good thing. And before I go, this is just my opinion, but is it just me? Or I swore up and down DJ Moore caught that ball at the very end. It came out of his hands, but for a minute I thought he actually caught it.
I thought he had it. I thought he had it too.
So you guys keep doing what you're doing, and always keep pounding.
It's like in his elbow. Look, G. Cavassier brings it strong every week nearly. I feel like what a great way to end the show in so many ways, and not to say that Brandon's vigor was unwarranted. But, you heard a different tone, different, take and composure from G. Cavassier. But, really, I think he all got us back and focused to this. He brings up the hardship that has been left in the wake of Hurricane Florence. Lynn reminds that Ken Walker, part of the C3 Fantasy Football Challenge, part of the C3 family, been around, part of this show, this conversation since the beginning, that he is having to go back to his home now, trying to deal with the damage. He's from Wrightsville Beach. I want to shout out to Madison Rain. First, she's a good follow on Twitter, Madison Maines, Maness. I don't even know if she listens to the show, but I do know that I've seen a couple of tweets from her. She is a Wilmington person, living in Wilmington, stayed in Wilmington for this hurricane, and Wilmington is kind of ground zero for Hurricane Florence. And so our thoughts, prayers, and really just we hope that you guys can get back to life and be safe out there and get back to normalcy soon in the wake of Hurricane Florence. We were very fortunate. I know I was in Greenville. I think even Joey was in Charleston. We're generally the places that get hit the hardest. So it's surprising when we don't get hit in those cases. Our fortune should not, and our not good luck, but it shouldn't kind of overshadow that people are having some real challenges and hardships right now. So great way to kind of go with the show there. Good gosh, we're going on 2 hours, fellas. But I would say this is, look, we didn't even talk about the Bengals. Not a single word about the Bengals.
Yeah,
I think there are
do a real quick.
Quick 3 points on this. Number one is AJ Green has had 3 touchdowns, I think, last weekend. Joe Mixon goes down. Their offense, I was listening to a Bengals podcast, and they're saying this, is that while Joe Mixon is a big loss, Gio Bernard comes in. Gio's a good player, but this team is not a team that is predicated on the run. They're a pass first, run second offense. So you got a lot of options there. The offensive line is playing a little bit better than normally expected, but facing some injuries there. I think Billy Price is hurt. So they got a backup center in there. But to me, the story, guys, about the Bengals is this. While you got A.J. Green, you got to deal with him. You go from Julio to A.J. Green. The Bengals defense, 6 turnovers in the first 2 games, something like 10 hurries from 3 or 10 pressures from 3 different defensive linemen, including Dunlop.
Yeah, they're playing right out.
Yeah. So their line, even if they're not getting to the quarterback, they're putting enough pressure to give their secondary an opportunity to make plays. They're forcing turnovers. Guys, the Bengals, you look at the Bengals on the schedule a year ago, maybe not as daunting as the Cowboys or even the Falcons, but man, this is not going to be an easy game for the Panthers.
Not at all. It will not be an easy out. I do think, however, if Trey Turner is able to play, listen, man, I don't think we said it enough. Shout out to Chris Clark. I mean, you joked about it, him being on the sofa and then coming in and playing lights out. But, man, especially at the left tackle position, he really did play very well. And I think if you put Moulton on the right side, Chris on the left, and Trey Turner back where he needs to be, if our offensive line gives Cam Newton some time, I have no doubt in my mind that we should be able to move the ball up and down the field on them, especially after Cam Newton's performance. Ron needs to hire Brandon Herbert to light a fire under Ron Rivera's ass, so Ron Rivera can light a fire under our defense's ass, because the type of performance that we put out against Atlanta, it's not going to be acceptable. It's a home game. We're here at home. This is going to be a very important game for us, and we need to come away with the W, and I think that we're equipped to do it.
Brandon Herbert taking offers for arson coach.
Yeah, arson.
He can be the guy that lights the fire starter of coaches. Joey, go, and we talk about this, that defense for the Bengals. much improved. You're not hearing about Von Perfect and all this. Instead, you're getting back to the guys that are really the best players on the team. That defensive line, Geno Atkins is underrated defensive tackle. Dunlap is getting after it. They're causing turnovers. And while we're talking about Clark, and I wanted to say when Cody was saying this about Clark, about how good he played, I would say that Clark's worst play was better than Matt Khalil's worst play. That's how I look at it. Is that, I don't even need you to be lights out. Is that your worst play was better than Matt Khalil's worst play? So it wasn't necessarily a downgrade. At the very worst, it's a lateral move. I think from that one game sample, it was an upgrade at left tackle over Matt Khalil. But Joey, that defense going against a offensive line that's struggling with injuries, I think Cincinnati's defensive line's better than Atlanta's. So I'm not necessarily ready to say, holy cow, this offensive line can hold up just yet.
I would say they're definitely better. But I don't know, man. We gotta run the ball. I believe that's what it's gonna come down to. We gotta run the ball on them, control the clock, and just let Cam do his thing. I'm not, defensively, the main concern is going to be the red rifle and AJ Green. I gotta be honest with you guys. I think Bernard is definitely a step back from Mixon.
Definitely.
They're not on the same level. Not at all.
Cody, take over. Are you ready to go to ice up? So you got something you need to say first?
I think that's good, man. Listen, this is the last thing I'll say about Cincinnati. We have a bye week right after that, and then we play the Giants at home, and the Giants, their offensive line and defensive line is like paper mache. So these next 3 weeks, that could be a very important 3-week span for us to really build up a lot of good momentum and then go straight into Washington and Philly and just kick some ass. We have the potential to do it. This is a very important game for us. We need to be firing on all cylinders. That's all I got to say, man. We are a better team than
I'm trying to get to what you said to Cody to J-Dub to hold on. Was it the ice up picks? Because I'm ready to do them.
Well, I was telling J-Dub, because J-Dub, he's getting ready to do a pool every Tuesday. I was just telling him we're going to be going live every Sunday, to do a reaction after the game, talk about what happened, what we saw. So, J-Dub, we love you, buddy. Join us on Sundays if you can't join us on Tuesdays, man. But that's it, dude.
And if not, you're the best. The Cat Calls line is always open. You bring it. All right, so let's jump in this. First, remind you guys, this is C3 Panthers podcast, bringing you really an expansive discussion tonight. I don't feel like, while it was long, I felt like it was charged and good. I thought there's a lot of things to be talking about. There's even more that we wanted to talk about, but the real reason this conversation's been fantastic is because you guys in the chat room, you guys on the Cat Calls, the number's 252-228-5098. We appreciate it. Continue to spread the word about the C3 Panthers podcast. Turn your phone to portrait, smash that thumbs up, hit subscribe, get us over 1,000. The conversation's been fantastic tonight. The support is great. And really, I don't see it as support as much as like, hey, y'all are just part of it right now.
Yeah.
So it's just, we're in it together. We've always been that attitude. It started from day one with Joey. I started the halftime hangouts, just talking as two buddies, talking about the first half of a game. So now we're going to go to our oldest segment, our OG segment of the C3 Panthers podcast. That's the Ice Up Picks, where we tell somebody to ice up, to toughen up, to get it together. Everybody's fair game. Who wants to go first tonight?
I'll go first.
All right, Joe. Joe is known for icing up some mugs. Go ahead, Joe.
I'm keeping it in house this week, brother. I am icing up Shaq Thompson.
Ooh.
Where was he this week? This Sunday? Did he play, or did we leave him at the hotel?
He looked tired. He looked behind. He looked a little heavy to me.
Yeah. He looked slow. 2 tackles. That was his stat line. 2 tackles. Listen. Golden, Horton, Mayo, Munnerlin, and Searcy, who left early, remember, all had 2 tackles. Shaq Thompson should not be on that list with those players. This is what he did. The problem here is consistency. He is trying to follow in some really, really big footsteps. And he's been with the team a while. He knows the system. And he was completely invisible on Sunday. But against Dallas, we saw him flying everywhere. He seemed to be making every other tackle. In that game, he had 9 total tackles with a sack. That does not work. To be great, you have to be consistent. And if we don't see consistency out of him in these 4 games, there is going to be cause for alarm. We may want Thomas Davis to come back for 1 more year.
Oh, gosh.
He's got to play better than that. It is just expected of him. He is supposed to be taking that next step as a player. Someone who you drafted with a purpose of stepping in the Thomas Davis spot once he retired. So, Shaq Thompson, you got to get motivated. You got to get your head in the game. I don't know what it's going to take, but we need you playing top-notch Carolina Panther football week in and week out. And until you do, ice up, son.
Well done. Didn't even mention that the image that Cody threw up there, and that is that, I mean, everybody deserves an ice up. The most embarrassing moment in the history of the Carolina Panthers defense was Matt Ryan doing a Cam Newton impersonation, blasting over 3 or 4 defensive players in helicopter mode up into the dag to score a second touchdown. Had to be one of the saddest moments.
Over Shaq Thompson and Dontari Poe, no less. This big behemoth of a man, Matt Ryan, is just helicoptering over the top of. Not a good.
That was a low point in my life. That was a low point in my fandom of the Carolina Panthers, particularly as a team that's got the defense. Cody, I'm ready to go. Can I go?
Yeah, but do your thing, man. Do your thing.
All right. My ice up pick this week, of course, is that Lynn said I know who he's icing up, and you know it, is that, and I'm just going to throw out this, Fitness Connection of Greenville, you suck. Extorting people for money. trying to get people, trying to make a clandestine billing cycle to juice mugs that you know have already left your club. I didn't even exercise at your place anyway. Just paid y'all. And now you're going to send me to a creditor. I'm fighting to the end. But my real ice up pick, so you guys suck. Fitness Connection, Greenville, y'all suck. Don't go there. Leave there. But my real ice up pick this week goes to Kean Fahey, that Irish dude who is a supposed all of a sudden expert on football. And sometimes I feel like he's got some cool things to say. He's sensitive. He's as thin as a piece of rice paper. He is so soft when it comes to anybody disagreeing with him. But one of the things I was happy with him in the past that he said is, look, Cam Newton, You can't just look at completion percentage. You got to see, like, where are these completion percentage? You can break it down: long throws, intermediate throws, short throws, conditions. There's like, are the receivers doing their job? We saw that in this game. We saw, like, hey, is that, look, Cam Newton's completion percentage was high, and there were still some passes that, like, really just weren't on him. So you can't just look at that statistic. But what Keon Fahey did this week is he sends out a tweet that says, QB play, bad, O-line play, terrible, defensive play, awful for the Carolina Panthers. Then he throws the three bad passes by Cam, the drop by Funchess on the back throw. Here's the thing is, Keon Fahey, you're like trying to become like a Skip Bayless. You're taking a couple of plays to make a narrative all of a sudden. Look, you look at that game and you go, hey, Cam Newton won't bad. That's silly. You're not looking at it holistically. You're saying, hey, not Dallas, but damn, missing all your starters. Not bad. Right? So what I just know Keon Fahey for hot takes. Hot takes. You are Fox News in us on the Panthers, and we don't have that. So make America great again. Go and cover football. Ice up.
Football.
Fahey.
Football.
You're up, Cody.
Listen, Cam was throwing so many missiles. We're going to start calling him NORAD. Just shooting missiles in the sky, dude. Okay? Cam Newton was incredible. If you were dissing on Cam Newton after watching the Atlanta game, you don't know a lot about football. Go back to your 5th grade math class, please. But okay, there's that. So, listen, I want to first echo what our man Jay Cavassier said. Shout out and prayers and thoughts to everybody that was affected by the hurricane. You know, you really saw a lot of camaraderie between North and South Carolinians, which is always a good thing. But, you know, it never ever fails that people will use the suffering of others to try and better their own platforms. And I want you to make no mistake that the Weather Channel and CNN, they love hurricanes. They love them, they love them, they love them. And they will do their best to make you feel that there has never been a storm this bad ever before. Case in point.
Local broadcasters are pretty tough on that.
So look, my man is struggling to stand up. It's so difficult. Oh no, there's two dudes having a leisurely stroll just in the background, you know, just out on a nice day. There's a nice breeze flowing through the hair. Yeah. And listen, I don't have the picture of this, but there's the guy on CNN, Anderson Cooper.
Don't. Hey, look. Before you go gotta go.
Right.
You gotta go watch Anderson Cooper's show last night. Not the whole thing. Just watch his response. You may be change your mind on the Anderson Cooper part. Go ahead.
Okay, well, I didn't see his response, but I know his cameraman was standing just straight, like nothing was the problem, and Anderson is in like waist deep water, and they're standing on the same water. So listen, man, to all of these people at the Weather Channel, listen, it's a hurricane. Everyone knows it's terrible. You don't need to oversell it, all right? The millions of dollars in damage and the lives lost, that's enough. You don't need to have a guy out there. No one can hear what they're saying anyway. The microphone is
True that.
Yeah,
True
you can never hear the wind. The winds are going so hard that there's no point in even listening to what they're saying. So listen, man, to CNN, to the Weather Channel, for all the unnecessary dramatics, and then being caught on top of that, ice up, son.
All right, guys, that's the C3 podcast brought to you by CarolinaCatChronicles.com, where every Tuesday night we chop up the latest Panthers news and opinions. Might be the longest show in the history of this show, and it was a good show. We had a great time. Joe Riolano, you can follow. Where can they follow you at?
Follow me on Twitter at Joe Riolano.
Cody Lashney, where can they get after you at?
On Twitter at Cody Lax, CODYLAC. Hit me up.
My name's Tony Dunn. You can follow me at cat_chronicles. I'm currently attending anger management problems. You can see that struggle on Twitter every day, or I'm enduring anger management problems, and I manifest it on Twitter. So we'd love for you to get in that conversation. Help calm me down. Help me make me more like G, less like Brandon. But that's just me. All right. So call into the Cat Calls line. Subscribe, share, help us out. And you know what? We got to keep pounding. Let's beat the Bengals. Let's beat the Bengals. On to next week. We got to prove ourselves. Defense coming back. Thank you so much, guys. We'll see you next week.
Beat the Bengals.